Hello guys, what's going on? It's Ninja Chortle, and I first want to point out to you that I made a mistake when I made this video. I forgot to turn on the microphone, so I did not get any sound when I was recording this, narrating as I was making this video. So right now, I am dubbing over my video. Basically, I've edited it already, and now I am talking about everything that's there. So if my voice and everything that I'm doing on camera don't match up, it's because I'm reacting to what I'm seeing and trying to make the best of it. So this is Madelyne Pryor, the clone of Jean Grey, created by Mr. Sinister, and this is my custom action figure of her, long time coming. And this particular look for her is kind of deviating a little bit from her first appearance. So her first appearance, she did look like this. She had more of a black, pretty much everything black. She's very slim, and this is during the Infernal storyline. But more recently, a lot of, I don't know if it's fan art particularly, but a lot more artists will draw her with a red background of the cape, and it's all tattered up and so on. So that's the idea of what I was going for. Like always with all of my videos, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to achieve this. So if you want to make your own, you can just follow along and use the same materials or close to it, as much as you like. Of course, you can take your own creative liberties, but I will tell you what I did. I won't show you what I did because there are other YouTubers out there that can absolutely help you out with videos out there that I've watched to learn how to make customs. But my idea is just to show you the materials, the paints, and things like that to help you make what I made, and hopefully you can make your own so you don't have to buy anything from anyone. But let's start from the bottom up, like I always do, at the feet. All right, so in particular, these feet, their heels. Heels are so hard to work with Marvel Legends, but these heels, the lower legs, the like the calf and the knees, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe I did use the same knees that came from the Emma Frost, from the Walgreens exclusive Emma Frost. So those are already black. I just removed the paint that's there, as you can see, that's already on her leg, that gray color. I removed that, did add a little bit of paint, and all of the black on my Madelyne Pryor does have a gloss finish because I wanted to achieve a more like a patent leather kind of thing uh, going on with that. Now, truth be told, I made this this Madelyne Pryor. This is like the second or third custom that I've made, and that started back in July. So one thing that's different and that I would not do to this day is use the same legs. So in particular, his Emma Frost legs are pretty big compared to I don't say pretty big, but they're just a little bit bigger than most legs that I would see on an average Marvel Legend female, as far as the calves go, and even the thighs. But in particular, the calves are just a little bit larger on Emma Frost and also on Blink, and I wouldn't want that on Madelyne. But I did use them here because they already came with the heels. It was already black, and it was easy. And again, this is a couple months ago. If I redid Madelyne, I would not use the same legs. I'll use a thinner pair of legs. In fact, Shikla has black legs. I would normally probably just use those instead of these legs, but it still works out. They do look fine, and it helps with preventing paint rub because I don't have to paint the joints on the inside. They're already black, and same with the knees, they're already black. I just added gloss on the outside of them, and it works just fine. So keep that in mind. I try to avoid paint rub when I can if I have available parts. So if I have a black leg and I can fodder a black leg, then I would just use that instead of painting something pink and making it black. It's just a lot easier, makes sense to do. So I do recommend that when you're trying to make your figures. Now, as far as the thighs and the hips go, I do count the hips as those joints that connect the thighs to the torso. They came directly from this Black Widow. You can see a big height difference here as well, one because of the heels, but in general, the thighs are those Black Widow, the Deadly Origin uh, thighs and hips. Now, in general, as far as the height and weight goes, I try to make my figures adhere to a certain principle of height and weight, so they are following my established guidelines. However, this was early in my days and I didn't exactly establish those guidelines, so you can see Madelyne stands at 5'6", 110 pounds. So she should be about the same height as this Black Widow. However, she has heels on that would make her about 3 inches taller, quote unquote. But at 110 pounds, I would want her to actually be slimmer than this, but I didn't even know what type of legs to use to achieve that, because I like using these legs on Black Widow as well as the Blink legs or the Emma Frost legs because they pop on and off, and it makes them easily swappable, easily work with. You can sand them and so on. They just look better. So I did use those legs on this Madelyne. If I wanted to have something slimmer, I would, at this point, I would use legs from Electra and just sand off the jeans, the Netflix Electra, and they would still be very skinny. Now on these thighs, though, I did use epoxy sculpt going around to make the shape of the boot. So instead of putting epoxy sculpt on the entire thigh, for the boot part, it's just going across the top, kind of making a lip or just like a top end part. And I sanded it down just a little bit and tried to make it as smooth and seamless and kind of be on a slope so it can work its way with the rest of the thigh. The black paint does cover up some of that transition, so you can't quite see everything. It doesn't stand out that much, but it is there if you look a lot closer. Now, going into the upper torso a little bit, like I said, I try to avoid paint rub as much as possible. So those arms are not painted on. They came straight from a Jessica Drew Spider Woman, since she already had black arms. The only thing I did was add gloss to them, the gloss finish that I use on just sealing the paint in general. But yeah, we use the same parts. If you have black arms and you need black arms, just use black arms instead of going through all of the hoopla to make something that's orange or something black, and then you have to paint the joints. I don't have to worry about paint rub in the joints now because they're already black on the inside, is black on the outside. Just makes life a lot easier when you don't have to deal with that. It was literally just popping them off of Jessica Drew and then popping them on to my Madelyne Pryor custom. Now, as I continue here, one thing to point out is one, these hands came from the Age of Apocalypse Jean Grey, and I did paint the fingernails red, so that's one thing. And then there's also black. The actual black I used was semi-gloss black. It's not flat black, but it didn't really matter. It doesn't really completely matter since I added that glossy sealer finish to it anyway. So all of the black is going to be glossy as is. All of the flesh tone I used was a matte finish. So it does have a shine to it because matte finish isn't flat finish. Keep that in mind. Matte and flat are two different things. So the skin tone does have a little bit of a shine, but the black is a lot shinier in general because it has a gloss as opposed to matte finish. Now, as far as the rest of her goes, we're going to get into that shortly, but we have to talk about the accessory that I made, which is the Goblin, that little dragon that's in her hand. So that in particular came from the Walgreens exclusive Magic. Now, the picture I'm putting up is actually for the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Magic. It's mostly the same, but the Walgreens one came with a bunch of accessories, and then one of them included a really orange dragon that had paints all over it. And I took all that paint off. It just stayed orange, and then I painted it this light green color. It was just white with a little bit of green, just so it can emulate a goblin color. It's really just Lockheed from the Kitty Pryde figure. and they repackaged it with magic, and then I repainted that to be this fake little goblin. I think it turned out okay. I only did about one layer of paint on it, so you can see all the streaks in there, and I kind of like that. It gives it a little bit more texture. Sometimes I don't do a complete paint job just because I like the way some of the streaks and some of the original plastic colors showing through, and I like that with this accessory here. Now, we're going to talk finally about the torso. So this torso in particular does come from a Lady Deadpool figure. I talk about this all the time. I do use these quite frequently these days. Between that and Shikla, they're both the same body, but Lady Deadpool is very abundant and cheap, so I do recommend using that. But that's what the upper and lower torso is made of. Now, one thing that is there, you can see the like the thong area. I did sculpt that with epoxy sculpt. You can see some of that there. Same thing with the upper torso. The her top is epoxy sculpted there. What's missing though, and it's one thing that I've learned over time is that I wanted to add the little sash of cloth going from her groin, but I didn't do it because this took me so long. Like I said, I started in July and now I'm just now really finishing it. That piece of cloth, I had already finished her body and added the sealer and painted and sealed and everything, and then I was going to glue that cloth on afterward. But after these last few months, I realize that that's not a good way to put that cloth on. What you should do, and what I should have done, is sanded the piece and then added the sculpt for that, or whatever. If you're sculpting, just add that and sand it down, and then glue on your pieces. In particular, this cloth, this loin cloth for her, glue it on, and then prime it and then paint it. Because if you're trying to glue something on top of something that has glue on it, that's not going to stick very well. So that's one thing I've learned very recently, and that's why I didn't end up putting that cloth on her groin. Now, her flesh tone is very, very warm, is very, very tan-ish color. I did that fairly intentionally to match this head that came from the Dark Phoenix wave, the uh, Dark Phoenix and Cyclops 2-pack. That's what this head comes from. So I tried to match that skin tone as much as possible. It wasn't perfect, but I think it looks pretty good. The hands again came from the AOA Jean Grey. Those don't match, but they are not that far off. But I did the best that I could. One thing also to note is that because I did this such a long time ago, you can see some of my early work, the blemishes on her stomach, is because I cracked the figure, and I didn't know that back then. You really don't need to crack figures, and I tried putting it together again, but and it's together, but I will never take off the upper torso again because if I do, it will fall apart. It did while I was putting it together start to crack, and if I were to take it apart, the lower torso would just fall in half because I did crack it, and even after super gluing it and sealing it. Now, I'm bringing this Pirate Deadpool in because that's where the cape came from. That is one of the reasons why it took me so long to finish this thing, because I was waiting for it to come in the mail. I ordered it in August and didn't get it until about a week or two ago. So that cape is just painted red because it was originally fully black, painted red on the inside. And then I cut the top part so I can make that jewel that's there. That's made of fully epoxy sculpt, just a circle of epoxy sculpt, and then some little beads of epoxy sculpt going around it, and painted it red and gold, and then glued that together with the cape so that way it stays on the cape as opposed to on her chest, which you'll find out very soon may have been a mistake, but we're going to live with it. Like I said, it is at the moment glued to the cape, and then the top part of the cape doesn't look like that originally. Um, I'm just right now pointing out that I did repaint the cape as well to give it a deeper black than the original plastic, and then added a gloss finish. So it's gloss on the inside and gloss on the outside. But on the top part of the cape is it normally is a little bit thicker than that. It has like a lot more stuff going on there. It's made for Deadpool, not made for Madelyne, made for a man, not made for a female. So I had to cut that off just to get it to fit onto the head that I was using for Madelyne. Now, um, originally, this head that I was actually going to use for this figure wasn't going to be the Dark Phoenix alternate head sculpt. I had made my own. So I'm messing around with that right now. But I made my own using the Age of Apocalypse Jean Grey head. And then, because that head has the blue mark on her face. So I had to remove the paint from that head, and then because of that, I had to also remove the her eye makeup and her eyebrows and so on, and repaint all of that. And this is what that head looks like as soon as it pops up, which will be any second now. But yeah, I had to repaint that head and give her a new haircut too, because the Age of Apocalypse Jean has very short hair. And here it is. So, like I said, I had to redo all of her face paint, her her face makeup. So that's new eyebrows, new eyeliner, new eyes, and the same lipstick. I didn't repaint that. The hair comes from the Julia Carpenter Spider Woman, and her hair is normally like a dirty blonde or something like that, whatever color. But this hair color in particular is called Scarlet Red, and it is the Angelus leather acrylic paint, Scarlet Red. So I really love the way it turned out. I absolutely adore it. I hope to use that color again. Just like on my Black Widow, I used red, just straight up red on my Black Widow. Check that video out. I made it a few weeks ago, and that looks amazing. But I also really love the way that this Scarlet Red turned out. By the way, the makeup I did on this head, by far the best I've done on any of the figures that I've worked on to date. It's near flawless. I wish all of my heads that I do, eyes and eyebrows and stuff, turn out as good as this head turned out. But ultimately, I did not use this head on this figure because it doesn't fit when I try to put it on with the here. I'm just comparing the hair color of the my hair plus the Hasbro hair, but it fits well on this body mold. But the problem is the cape. The cape itself, even though I cut off the top part of it, and here's what it looks like with the head that I originally intended on using for Madelyne. It doesn't look half bad, and the flesh tone doesn't match even more. It's actually worse on worse of a mismatch, but that's not the big deal here. Because of this hair being shaped the way it is, which I didn't test this ahead of time. This is another thing that I've learned in the course of making this figure, is that I really need to test and make sure everything fits and is shaped correctly, that that hair gets in the way of this cape. So if I were to use that cape and this head, what would happen is her head would have to permanently be facing downward just a little bit, not a lot, but it would not look straight like it does right now. Her neck would face downward because the hair in the back is touching the cape, and it just gets in the way. So using the Dark Phoenix head, there's a little bit of space in that hair sculpt there, and it just lifts up just enough that she can look fairly straight. It's not perfect. She definitely can't look up with that other head. Here's a back shot, by the way. I meant to show that earlier while I was recording this, but I also had the cape on, so you couldn't see that. Um, That about wraps up this video. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. Again, I don't normally make videos in this fashion. I just forgot to turn on the mic, so I have to do this dub over. But I will be uploading a new video very soon on a new custom. Make sure you, again, here, subscribe. If you have a comment, please leave it down below. Any questions, leave that below as well. Follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/ninja_chortle, and Twitter, Instagram. All the links to that stuff are below in the description, and I will see you guys next time.